Good morning. It's April and I'm in the Everglades. If today is anything like it was yesterday, it's quickly going to rise to 90 degrees with humidity. But for now, I'm sitting here watching these crabs come in and out of these holes that are in the grasses right next to my campsite. I've never seen anything like this. I got in yesterday and with very little shade, almost no breeze, and the sun being this powerful. I mean, we're only 100 miles north of the Tropic of Cancer right now. So we're basically in the tropics. The sun is super strong. Yeah, it was much more punishing than it was pleasurable here. Now that I've established that it is indeed hot here, I'm going to stop talking about it because I realize that me complaining is not fun to listen to. Mainly for two reasons. One, I'm lucky enough to get to be here and experience this in the first place. And secondly, because me being here is actually a choice. And choice it is. When I set out for Florida in the fall, my plan was to seek refuge from the depths of winter elsewhere in this tropical environment. But it's taken me a lot longer than expected to get here. And that's because I've been enjoying the journey. And although I knew by continuing southward I was going to be putting myself into discomfort, I continued the trajectory. This, my friends, is what we call type 2 fun. It's not exactly fun while you're doing it, but when you look back, you're glad you did because the journey was worth it. The memories were worth it. And that's what I'm counting on here because it's a little bit too hot to call fun, but I'm here. I've made it this far and I'm going to make the absolute best of it. But first, breakfast. Also, in case you're curious, I'm just using this Talenti jar to mix my waffle mix. I'm not eating ice cream for breakfast, although in this heat, doesn't sound terrible. I booked this campground that's in Everglades National Park. It's called Flamingo Campgrounds. I'm staying here for 2 nights, and the area we're in right now is this sort of southernmost tip of mainland Florida, which is really cool. It also feels wild in a way unlike any other part of the mainland US has felt to me. I think my perception of the wildness of Everglades National Park was quite astute, in that it is actually a national park because of the biodiversity that this ecological system supports. National parks always have to have a reason that sets them apart from other areas to warrant the protection that they're given. And the reason that sets Everglades National Park apart is the biodiversity here. This park was originally started to be protected by the Audubon Society because of the birds that live in this area. But aside from the birds, there are fish, reptiles, crocodilians, and mammals that inhabit this area and make it special. The visitor center in this area is named after Guy Bradley, who was the first game warden in this area well before it was a national park. In fact, it was about 125 years ago where they started actually policing the poaching behavior because there were so few birds left in this area, whereas in the past they had taken up the whole skies, and the poaching was really just to support trends for women's fashion and to make money from that trade. I think there's a manatee there. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it's a shadow. A manatee right here and one right there. And they just kind of keep coming up for just a second. I'm headed out on a boat tour soon. But the manatees, I guess, like to hang out right here in this area. So. I'm headed out on a boat tour and hopefully see a lot of wildlife, crocodiles, manatees. Those are the big ones that I want to see. So let's go check it out.
Set the boat, and you are allowed to move around. Just please make sure you're watching your step, all that fun stuff.
And I'll flip the boat around the other way so the other side's going to go.
And that's the water that we're in. So we are in brackish water. Brackish water meaning partially salty, partially fresh. These crocodiles do have a special gland underneath their jaw that allows them to process that salt water nice and easily to be able to live out here perfectly healthy. If this were to be an alligator, it does not have that gland. And just like if we drank a whole bunch of salt water, you would get pretty sick. But what makes me so excited is I see that osprey on the fence down below. Have you guys seen that osprey down there?
Yeah.
Or like on the structure the nest is on, right to the side of it, there's another osprey. It's a little bit lower than the rest of them.
Yeah.
That's a chick.
Oh.
Little yellowish colored leaves, and those droopy downward pointing leaves that are lighter green and yellow are our manchineel tree. And is anyone familiar with manchineel? All right. Well, this tree actually gets its name from early Spanish explorers that came to this area, and they were eating the delicious fruits that kind of looked like small green apples. And they started to eat it, and some got stomach aches and some died. And so it got the name La Manzanita de la Muerte, or the little apple of death. Right across on the left side of the boat, that is our white ibis. They are often eating a lot of random insects and small fish, and so you'll often, oh, he just dropped a little guano for us onto that little branch. And so you'll often see them foraging on the ground or wait, oh, there's another one back in trees, deep into the foliage. Know when they have a gun. And so that is eventually how Guy Bradley died. He heard some shooting taking place in the Florida Bay near where he lived, and he set sail in his tiny boat to try and put a stop to it. And he discovered it was actually his neighbor, Walter Smith. And Walter Smith was already furious with Guy Bradley because Guy Bradley had arrested two of his sons twice before.
Out in this Cinnabon, and we've asked them before, you know, how does it compare? Is it similar? Is it different? What's going on?
The boat tour was pretty cool. I got to see a crocodile, so now I've seen manatees and crocodiles. And then I saw alligators a lot in Louisiana. They're not so much in this part of the park, but I guess the more northern part of the park that I'm not going to spend time in, the alligators are up there because they're only in freshwater, and this has brackish and saltwater. Anyway, I'm just hanging out on the floor of the visitor center using their Wi-Fi because there's no cell service here, and I just wanted to check my messages and also, more importantly, plan my egress. How the heck I'm getting out of here, where I'm staying along the way, because I am daydreaming of cooler temps. It's actually air conditioned in here. It's not cool, but it's not hot. But yeah, just, you know. Oh, I said I wasn't going to complain anymore. My bad. I'm so tired. Oh wait, I'm complaining again. I may go for a walk a little bit later, but I'm pretty much just gonna take it easy and try to manage the heat as best as I can. I'm heading out for a walk now after spending the last couple of hours hanging out at camp back there, just resting. Kind of felt like I wanted to take a nap, but couldn't quite fall asleep. So I'm gonna go for an evening walk, maybe watch the sunset, although I do want to make sure I make it back to camp and take a shower and all that before it gets dark. Just, crocodiles, snakes. Don't want to be walking around in that, I guess. Quite a lot of wind, and it is a welcomed feature of the day because it is really helping to manage these temperatures, and I am so grateful for that. I'm glad I didn't let the heat scare me away from visiting here, because who knows if I'll ever have the opportunity to come back. I always like to think that things are open-ended and you may have that opportunity, but it's not guaranteed. Found a spot with enough break from the wind that I feel like even with the microphone you'll be able to hear me, but let me back up because I need to make sure I'm in that exact spot. It is so beautiful here. Something I want to say about when I put myself through these challenging situations, like things that I'm afraid of, or when it's too hot, or when it's too cold, or whatever the issue might be that's uncomfortable, that's kind of the point. I've been living nomadically for 5 years, and I've been living an adventurous life during that time as well, and even a little bit before that. And for me, that's part of what makes life worth living. I'm not trying to recreate a life of creature comforts while living in my car on the road, spending a great deal of my time outside. I'm trying to develop myself into someone who's more resilient. And situations where I have to deal with something that's extreme or challenging or frightening all lends itself to build upon that resilience. And so that's kind of the point. Something that also has to be considered, whether you're looking at also living this kind of lifestyle or you're just interested in knowing about the ins and outs, the good and the bad, is that this heat is not just impacting me, my body in that experience, but it's also making a significant impact on my setup, namely my power supply and my refrigeration. Well, it's the refrigeration that's affecting the power supply. So my refrigerator is a 12-volt refrigerator. It has been very efficient. I've had it for several years now, and I'm really happy with it. But it does draw a lot of power when it's very hot, like high 80s, 90s, anything like that. In order to maintain a food-safe temperature, it's pretty much going to be running all the time, pulling power from my power stations. That's probably going to look at somewhere between 50 and 75 watts of power that it's consistently pulling in order to maintain a temperature, because it's just going to have to keep running. Also, it just is very taxing on everything because my power stations and my refrigeration has to run the fan. It gets really hot in the car with all of those components, and trying to give everything space to breathe and to bring in cool enough air to keep running. It's just, I can tell it's just really taxing, and it's not good for all of these components. And to be quite frank, I'm a little bit nervous that something might go kaput just from how hard everything is having to work. So just wanted to touch on that a little bit because it is part of what my setup is, what the process is of living in a vehicle. If you're in a situation where maybe you have air conditioning or something like that, that's going to be different, but I don't have that. I have a very basic setup here, and it's really not designed for extreme temperatures, especially extreme heat. I am very grateful that the campground that I'm staying at in Everglades National Park has showers. They're free showers. They're not warm showers, they're cold showers, which is fine because it's so hot that I've multiple times per day just been going and getting in the shower just to like cool off my body, to get my hair wet, and it really helps maintain a functional body temperature for me as someone who has some challenges dealing with the heat. Interestingly, the cold shower here made me think of the fact that the campground concessionaire, this part of the park anyway, Flamingo, is the same parent company that I worked for the past 2 summers in Mount Rainier National Park. And if you've been here since I left my seasonal job in September, you may remember some of the challenges that I had over this past summer working for them, and one of them being the fact that I got about 9 warm showers the entire summer while I was working in my business unit with them. So yeah, I guess they're doing some cold showers in Florida too. Anyway, I wanted to mention that also because when I was looking at what my options would be for the winter of 24-25, I was thinking that I was going to pick up another seasonal job potentially. And one of the areas that I was entertaining doing that was doing an internal transfer to the business unit in the Everglades here in Florida. And so it's interesting for me to check that out firsthand. I didn't actually end up applying for that transfer, but one of my friends did. So I gave her a little bit of feedback of the environment here in case she was thinking about coming in the future. But in a different version of events, I very well could have been down here at this part of Florida much earlier in this series of videos, and I would have actually been working here, but I'm much happier with how things have actually turned out. So anyway, I'm going to call it a night, and going to be taking off from the Everglades very early in the morning. It has been a fantastic visit, but I gotta keep it short. Like I said, it's too hot here for me. I need to be moving through Florida quite expeditiously because I don't know how many nights of very little sleep due to the heat I can manage. So trying to keep spirits high, and I thank you for being here. Special shout out and thank you to my channel members, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.